Katie Hopkins, the unapologetic queen of provocative commentary, has just delivered a crushing blow to Rayner on live television, leaving viewers stunned with her trademark-biting sarcasm. Hopkins didn't hold back, systematically dismantling Rayner's numerous blunders and leadership failures, igniting discussions about whether this moment marks the beginning of the end for Rayner's political aspirations. The public is left reeling, pondering if this is merely a shocking debate highlight or a definitive turning point for the Labour Party. According to Hopkins, Rayner's recent missteps are not just cringeworthy, they reveal a stark decline in the Labour Party's credibility. If Rayner is indeed meant to be the champion of the working class, then, as Hopkins argues, that class deserves far better representation. The most striking moment of the debate occurred when Hopkins expressed her profound disappointment in Rayner's weakness in facing public scrutiny. A leader who avoids engaging with the people they profess to serve? That's not leadership, it's the worst kind of political charade. Anyone familiar with Hopkins knows she thrives on calling out hypocrisy, and she didn't shy away from dissecting Rayner's leadership skills and verbal gaffes with surgical precision. She mocked Rayner's public appearances, suggesting they seem more like exercises in repeating clichés than real leadership. When Rayner offered her solutions to pressing working-class issues, they quickly disintegrated under Hopkins' scathing evaluation, exposing glaring weaknesses in both her leadership and the Labour Party's overall strategy. Bono's remarks about Rayner's incompetence echo the growing dissatisfaction with the party's management. The intensity of Hopkins' critique surged when she slammed Labour's decision to cancel local elections, characterizing it as the pinnacle of cowardice. She likened their logic to that of a child losing at musical chairs and demanding the game be abolished altogether. With razor-sharp wit, she suggested that the Labour Party seems so fearful of public scrutiny that they might soon resort to hiding campaign events in broom closets. Focusing on Rayner's tendency to dodge accountability, Hopkins claimed that her responses to challenging inquiries are as predictable as they are empty. She derisively noted that Rayner's political strategy resembles merely appearing busy while contributing nothing substantial. This relentless critique from Hopkins underscores her belief that Rayner is wholly unfit for leadership. But Hopkins didn't stop there. She boldly attacked the Labour Party's apparent aversion to accountability, accusing Rayner and her colleagues of silencing dissent and avoiding difficult questions. In Hopkins' eyes, Rayner seems to crave a bubble where even the slightest criticism feels like an unforgiving storm. This behavior is not leadership, it's a defensive stance masquerading as strategy. Moreover, Hopkins highlighted Rayner's alarming disconnect from the daily struggles of British families, particularly those from working-class backgrounds and retirees. She painted a bleak picture of a Labour Party more focused on rhetoric than on delivering real solutions. The critique intensified as she lambasted Labour for its inaction regarding delayed winter fuel allowances, leaving pensioners to suffer in cold homes. According to Hopkins, the party's grand plan for pensioners appears to involve teaching them to survive on empty promises and a lukewarm cup of tea, a cruel act disguised as pragmatism. Transitioning to the topics of taxes, inflation, and the rising cost of living, Hopkins asserted that high taxes are crushing poor families. She argued that the Labour Party is taxing the very people it claims to protect, only to act surprised when they fail to garner support. Families are facing impossible choices between heating their homes and feeding their children, while Labour MPs engage in meaningless platitudes. Hopkins did not hesitate to call out the Labour Party's attempts to silence dissenting voices, specifically targeting figures like Nigel Farage and platforms such as GB News. To her, banning opposing viewpoints is not a strategy. It's an acknowledgement that the Labour Party has little to offer. She pointed out the hypocrisy of the party's international engagements, criticizing reports of Labour volunteers campaigning for Democratic candidates in the US while simultaneously expressing outrage over allegations of foreign election interference. As she dissected Labour's unfulfilled promises, Hopkins pulled no punches, criticizing tax hikes and soaring energy costs that reveal a party more concerned with hypocrisy than addressing genuine issues. The promise of no tax increases has devolved into a harsh reality where families are paying a steep price. Hopkins quipped that it's akin to telling children they'll receive ice cream for dessert, only to serve them a plate of broccoli and expect applause. The sharpest words came when Hopkins condemned the Labour Party's treatment of retirees, labeling it a moral failure. After dedicating their lives to the country, these citizens deserve more than empty promises and negligence. She also scrutinized Labour's migration policy, arguing that the party's approach seems skewed towards aiding migrants while neglecting the homeless in the UK. It's not about opposing help for migrants, it's about striking a balance that doesn't undermine the rights of British citizens. With her characteristic sarcasm and unyielding critique, Hopkins laid bare the failures of both Rayner and the Labour Party, prompting the audience to question whether Rayner's leadership is a tragic mistake or an outright political disaster. As the broadcast reached its crescendo, Hopkins declared that Angela Rayner epitomizes a bad sitcom, loud, exaggerated, and utterly vague about the storyline. One thing is clear: the British public deserves far better than what they currently receive in terms of policies, leadership, and strategy. Whether you love her or loathe her, one undeniable point emerged: Angela Rayner and her party must be held accountable, and the British public is no longer buying the excuses. Katie Hopkins has undoubtedly made her mark, igniting debates that will reverberate well beyond this live television moment. Stay tuned, because with Hopkins, you never know who will be in her crosshairs